Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today we're going to be going over potentially the last pack for Planet Zoo. We've got the Zookeepers Collection Pack, which sadly might most likely be the last pack that Planet Zoo will have. But it does have a few fan favorites that a lot of people have been wanting for a while, so I can't be mad. It's got some pretty good selection, I think, in my opinion. But yeah, we're going to get started. So it comes with 7 animals. One extra animal comes as the anniversary update. So I believe that's probably because they're ending support. They want to give us this year's anniversary animal. Though their anniversary is not still for another month or so. So I've included that in here, so that'll be quite cool. So we're going to be starting off. We're going to Africa. We've got the African spurred tortoise. So let's have a look at these guys. Also called sulcata tortoises. And I'll refer to them as sulcatas from now on. So the sulcata tortoise, or Centrocheles sulcata, these guys are an endangered species of tortoise that are found around the southern edge of the Sahara Desert, around the place called Sahel, or Sahel in Africa. They are the largest living species of mainland tortoise in Africa, and the third largest species of tortoise in the world, second only to the Galapagos and Aldabra giant tortoises, and the only living member of the genus Certiceles. So they were originally described as testudo sulcata, which sulcata comes from furrow, which refers to the furrows between the scales. And it was given its own binomial name of, Centriceles. So basically that'd be that horned turtle or something like that. There's no recognized subspecies, but there are 2 separate populations, and one in West and the other in Eastern Africa. And there are some different halotypes, but they are typically considered related to each other. Still the same species, all that good stuff. So these guys are native to the Sahara Desert and the Sahel, which is a transitional ecosystem. It's kind of like the buffer between the Sahara Desert and the rest of Africa. So there's lots of semi-arid grasslands, thorn scrublands, and savannas. And these can be found in countries such as Burkina Faso, Central Africa, Chad, Mali, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Sudan, Yemen, like a lot of those countries around there, and they've been potentially excavated from Togo and Djibouti. And they are typically found in hills, stable deserts, dunes, flat areas with scrubs and high rivers as well. And in these arid regions, they actually will dig large burrows. So tortoises do dig quite big burrows. So they burrow to the ground to get to areas with high moisture. And in the hottest part of the day, they will often go down these burrows. And this is a process known as estivation. In the wild, they may burrow very deep. They can be up to about 15 meters deep and 30 meters long. But they are herbivores. They eat grasses such as grasses and succulents. They grow along the burrows, are kept moist, and in this they kind of eat the soil. They almost do like a little bit of gardening. So they're around their burrows, because of the moisture, they'll grow the plants, and then the feces will also feed the plants. So they can become almost little oases. And they also can be found in the Sundanese part of their formal range, and they actually reach greater sizes and maturity than other regions. So if they get to the Sunda area, they typically get about a little bit bigger. So in terms of their size and lifespan, we'll have a look at a female while we talk about them. So in terms of their lifespan, they're the largest species of tortoise in Africa and the third largest in the world, and the largest living mainland species. Males have an average mass of about 81 kilograms, but some males have been reported getting over 100 kilograms, with one potentially weighing about 120 kilograms. They have a straight carapace length of about 86 centimeters in males, and females have a straight carapace length of about 57.8 centimeters. So they're a little bit smaller. And males have a curved curvature is about a meter, and females about 67 centimeters in curved carapace length. And despite being the largest tortoises in Africa, they do have very small babies if we can find them. Let's have a look at these cute little guys. So this is supposed to be a little baby sulcata. How cute are they? So hatchlings weigh about 40 grams and are about 44 millimeters long, but they grow very quickly. So they reaching about 6 to 10 inches, or 12 to 25 centimeters within their first years of life, and then they kind of grow faster when there's more rainfall. They reach sexual maturity about 10 to 15, and the captive lifespan is around 54 years, but their lifespan is unknown, but they're believed to extend past 75 years. They really have known burn predators when they're hatchlings or adults, and in fact, it is believed they are pretty much near immune to predators once they reach about 30 kgs. On the other hand, though, tortoise eggs are sought out by many predators, such as numerous lizards and also mongooses. In the wild, it's believed the main cause of death is that they actually fall over and can't right themselves. That's believed to be the main reason they die. Again, as their diets, these guys are typically herbivores. Let's see if we can find another. Oh, there's another male there. Let's look at the male, another male for a bit. So typically, they're mostly herbivores. During the diet is typically things like grasses, plants, and hay. Their diets typically should be high in fiber and very low in protein, with too much protein causing them to grow too fast and develop metabolic bone disease. Flowers and plants, including cactus pads, can also be consumed, and they also will eat plants and algae on the surface of water. They're also capable eating various vegetables, such as darky leafy greens and endives. But despite being herbivores, they have been known to occasionally eat on dead animals. They mostly eat dead goats and zebras that have been pushed downstream during the wet season and next to a tortoise. And if there's also a human settlement nearby, they will eat on the rubbish. In terms of mate selection, copulation takes place during the mating season, the raining season, which is from the months of September through November, and breeding actions occur in the morning, with male sulcatas being very territorial, and males will compete with each other for breeding rights for the females, and are very vocal, and larger males tend to always win combat. So you can see those spurs there, they'll fence each other with those spurs under their neck there, and they've actually been known to kill each other. They're very territorial. So in terms of their nesting, 60 days after mating, the female will begin to roam looking for suitable nesting sites, and from 5 to 15 days of old, 4 or 5 nests may be excavated before she selects the perfect location for the eggs to be laid. And females tend to lay around 2 to 3 clutches of eggs, with each containing between 14 and 40 eggs. So typically, loose soil is kind of kicked out of the depression, and she actually may frequently urinate into the depression. Once it reaches about 2 feet or 60 centimeters in diameter and about 14 centimeters deep, or 3 to 6 inches, a further depression is made another 8 to 20 centimeters in depth, and will be dug out towards the back of the original one. The work of this digging may take up to 5 hours. The speed at which it's dug is depending on the relative hardness of the ground. It usually takes place in ambient air temperatures about 27 degrees Celsius. And once the nest is dug, the female will begin to lay an egg every 3 minutes, and clutches may contain about 15 to 30 or more eggs. And after the eggs are laid, the female will fill the nest, take an hour and more to fully colour them, and then they incubate for about 90 to 120 days. So in terms of their conservation efforts and status, they are currently ranked as endangered. Studies show that African spurred tortoises exist in approximately 16% of the area which they used to be found in. And these studies also show the average of 1 in 5 tortoises per site canvassed, which includes a rapid decline in the species. It's believed to be threats from livestock, in competition with livestock, also wildfires, killing a lot of their grass. And they also face things like the pet trade, which means they get way too over-collected, and they can be, when they're harvested, it's believed to be about 9,000 tortoises every year are taken from the wild for the pet trade. Another threats they face is things like climate change and predators that hunt their eggs. But luckily, the main method of conservation has really just been reintroduction programs. They are trying to reintroduce them to different areas, such as furlough and Segal, and their actually tortoise rates are about 80% of survival rate, so they're doing pretty good. And they're pretty easy and adaptable. They will just adapt right back into their habitat. There's also some captive colonies in several countries, and most of these reintroduction programs keep these captive ones and release them as part of their program. So they hope to expand it to evolve tortoises owners. Since there's actually more African spurred tortoises living in captivity than the wild, so they want to increase the use of that kind of breeding program where owners of potentially pet sulcata tortoises can breed and release their hatchlings into wild. So that would be pretty cool. I would definitely be keen on that. If I had a pair of sulcatas or a group of sulcatas and their babies could go to the wild, I'd definitely be very happy with that. So they do have, they are, as I mentioned, quite common in captivity. They are docile pets. They're really not aggressive unless there's other males. And being slow, can often despite being docile, they can be they stressed out when being handled, and they're quite heavy, so you've got to be very careful dropping and things like that. And a lot of these stresses can cause health problems. In terms of requirements, they do need an outdoor pen or where they can make a burrow, and there needs to be out somewhere hot. If you heat them inside, you will need heating systems and UV to help. They also need high fiber grasses. You can't just feed them on vegetables. You got to feed them grasses and hay and things like that. And yeah, that's pretty cool. Definitely a really cool animal. Love African spurred. Frontier did a good job. Definitely a big fan. So yeah, that is the African spurred tortoise. Next up, we've got Kirk's dik-dik. So a really, really cool little cute antelope that we get to have a look at. So let's let these really, really cute little guys. So this Kirk's dik-dik. So these guys are species of small dik-dik from eastern and southern Africa, and there's believed to be 6 species and potentially a 7th in southwestern Africa. So dik-dik is derived from their call. When they feel threatened, dik-diks lie low to prevent detection. If they're discovered, they run in a swift-like pattern until they reach a nearby kind of refuge. And during this flight, they have a zik-zik, a call that raises an alarm or harass predators or to publicize the presence of a mated pair. So these guys are some of the world's smallest antelopes, with the largest of the Kirk dik-diks. So the Kirk dik-diks is the largest of the smallest antelopes, is the best way to put it. They stand about 14 to 18 inches tall and weigh no more than about 7 kilograms or 16 pounds. Females tend to be about 1 to 2 pounds heavier than the males. And they're dainty little creatures. They have that pointed little mobile snout, large eyes and ears, prominent preorbital glands. You can kind of see that there. Pipstream legs, hair like hind limbs, and which are significantly larger than the forelimbs, and a vestigial tail. And the coats, depending on habitat, can range from grey to grey-brown with tan flanks, limbs, and erectile head crest and whitish earrings. You can kind of see going on there. And only male dik-diks you can see spout horns, which are about 3 inches or 8 centimeters long, that are corrugated and black slanted. So this is definitely our male here. Let's see if we can find our female. So here's the female with no horns. And they tend to have 7 to 9 angular ridges on the crest. They're also quite sexual dimorphic, with females being larger and lacking horns, while males have a more developed muzzle, a longer crest, and tend to be lighter. They're physically very similar. They can be distinguished by the Gunther's dik-dik by longer nasal and shorter proboscis, which gives their head a more wedge-like profile compared to the other species. So in terms of adaptations, these guys are highly adapted to surviving in arid regions of Eastern Africa. They have a hairy proboscis with tiny slit-like nostrils, and this contains a large nasal chamber that supplies them with a rich amount of blood that can be cooled by panting, and pounding through their snouts allows airflow and evaporation to cool the blood before it's pumped back into the body. And this process is also quite efficient, which means they have very minimal water, because these adaptations help conserve water because they live in deserts. And water and energy conserving measures such as fluctuating body temperatures, lowered metabolic rate, concentrated urine, and dry feces all contribute to these guys to survive in quite harsh climates. And furthermore, they also conserve fluids by licking dew off their nose and reabsorbing water from their feces. And when compared to cattle, they exhibit significantly lower density of sweat glands. Behaviourally, though, as well, they are highly nocturnal and spend the day seeking shade or rest throughout the hottest part of the day to help avoid the loss of fluids. They're also highly secretive when browsing, and succulent herbs and foliage are at its maximum fluid acquisition. And the hind legs of the Kirk's dik-dik are longer and are structurally more uniform than the foreleg, and they actually these hind legs help propel the dik-dik forward, and their relative short forelimbs are more, because they tend to live in more kind of broken terrain and things like that. So in terms of territoriality, they are endemic to the savanna areas of eastern and southwestern Africa, occurring primarily in the Somali and southwestern arid kind of areas. And the distribution can be described discontinuous because it's kind of like one area and then another area. They are isolated along the Fish River and do not reside in the Namib Desert, though they may traverse desert thickets among sources of water. They also prefer habitats with good cover but lacking tall vegetation. Ideal habitats cover a variety of browse, extensive shades, and open understory of their eye level. And as a result, they often will move to different ranges, when grass is too high. They also live in pairs or in territories about 2 to 86 acres, depending on cover and resources. And if no unfavorable events occur to the parts of dik-dik, they will actually remain in the territory for life. Males are the main defender of their territories, and females are able to maintain territories by themselves. And conflict over these territories are quite frequent, with males chasing another, stomping, and fighting each other for them. And furthermore, the counter ends, they both will result in both males stretching on the ground, or urinating and defecating. It's the way that they communicate. So, in terms of their diet, these guys are herbivores. They feed mainly on foliage, grasses, herbs, sedges, fruits, shoots, and berries. And due to their adaptations, they're very water independent and typically rely on vegetation for their water. They also are concentrate selectors, so they feed specifically on Dilodocus plants that are actually can be rapidly fermented and digested, and this includes leaves and fruits of high nutrients and water, but low in fiber and cellulose. And grasses are only consumed when they're germinating, and Kirk have the stomach capacity of about 8 to 10% of their body mass, and 2.2% when it's empty. And because of the aforementioned facts and the high body requirement, they feed and ruminate periodically throughout the day, and they consume roughly about 3.8% of their body mass every single day, which is pretty cool. So let's have a look at the cute little baby as we talk about reproduction and behavior. So, like other species of dwarf antelopes, they are monogamous and live in territories within pairs. These territories can be marked with urine or dung, and as a ritual, that helps maintain the pair bonds. During the ritual, the female will excrete, followed by the male, which samples the family to check her reproductive capacity. He pores over, then marks his dung and urine in a deposit, and finally, the marks thereby secretions of the preorbital gland. The male will court the female running up behind her, head and stretching his muzzle out to the front. Copulation will begin with the male standing on his hind legs behind the female and waving his forelegs, the acute angle to bring her over to her. And copulation will typically occur between 3 to 5 hours times within a 9-hour period. Once they're pregnant, they will gestate for about 5 to 6 months and may produce up to about 2 offspring a year. Females reach sexual maturity about 6 to 8 months of age, which occurs for males, between 8 or 9 months. Dik-diks provide only 1 offspring per gestation, so they only give birth to 1 baby at a time. And most births occur between November, December, and April through May, which coincides with the timing of the raining seasons. And dik-diks differ from other ruminants as the offspring are born with their forelimbs along the body rather than extending forwards. And at birth, the offspring are concealed away from their mother about 2 to 3 weeks, with survival of forms being roughly 50%. Once offspring reach a certain age, they'll also begin to participate in a bonding ritual and remain with their parents until another offspring is born. At this point, the parents will chase the older sibling away, and the older offspring then seeks its own territory and its own mate. So in terms of predators, they are kind of low on the ecosystem there. They get preyed upon by all sorts of different animals such as eagles, wildcats, jackals, caracals, pythons, lions, monitors, and humans. And young dik-diks are even preyed upon by like baboons, genets, and eagles. And they're quite finely tuned to things all like that. And they have that, and only when they use that call. And in terms of human interactions, humans are the greatest threat to dik-diks, as sometimes will kind of hunted for their hides and bones. They often used for snares. And the bones of their legs are used in traditional jewelry, while their hinds are used for gloves, and it takes an entire dik-dik hive to typically make a single glove. And actually, there's sometimes dik-diks are disliked by local hunters because they flush and warn larger game of their presence of humans. They also benefit from the destruction of vegetation by slash and burning agriculture. So they are listed as least concern. They're luckily doing okay. But yeah, I think we actually forgot to look at the Zoopedias for the spurred tortoise. So we'll actually go back to the spurred tortoise and then have a look at the Zoopedia for these guys. So we've got the spurred tortoise over here. So there's that. You can see Endangered Unknown. Pretty much covers the same area. You can see that area of Sahel where they kind of cover over there. So 1 to 8. So up to 3 males, up to 7 females. Mature groups 1 to 3. Females 1 to 3. Dominance none. They are promiscuous. Gregarious. Neutral with humans. Guests can enter their habitat, so that's quite cool. Size, average 80 centimeters long for males, 54 for females, 60 years average, and 60 kilograms for males, 40 for females. Age sexual maturity, 15 years, covered that. Then a baby still lay die. 2 to 6 per mating event, though it probably would be a lot more in captivity. Gestation period 4 months, incubation period 8 months, and they're quite easy to breed in captivity. So let's have a look at some. Yeah, we talked about that. At diggers, yep, covered that. African spurred tortoises have keratinous spurs in the hindlings, which they are named. Don't know why they have them, and yeah, we've mentioned that. And they can be housed with a Dharma gazelle, so that's quite interesting. Now let's have a look at the dik-dik, see what lives with the dik-dik. So let's have a look over here. Oh no, that's not what we wanted. We'll put it back. That was a bit of a fail. Anyway, let's have a look at the Zoopedia for him. So you see less concern. So you can see the kind of weird range. You can see it's kind of eastern and southwestern Africa. It's a bit weird. 1 to 2. So as we mentioned, live in monogamous pairs. They can have 1 or maybe 2 females. Dominance, none. They are monogamous, solitary. So all babies will come outside if they are shy, but guests can into the habitats. Same size, pretty much. The females should be slightly bigger. That's probably the best way to put it, because we mentioned there's slight sexual dimorphism, so the female should be slightly bigger, 10 years and about 5.1 kilograms each. Age of sexual maturity is about 7 months. Stage of sexual sterility is 12 years. Number of offspring 1. Gestation incubator period 6 months. 5-6 months, yep. About the same. Because, they can have 2 babies a year. That's probably about the same. And they're very easy to breed in captivity. The largest of dik-diks. We mentioned that. And dik-dik is by John Kirk, a British explorer and diplomat from Zanzibar to Zanzibar. And it's the 19th century. And yeah, they don't like hanging out with anyone. They're a little bit of a recluse. But yeah, quite cool. So we're going to be moving on to some primates. We know we love our primates here. We've got the Coquerel's sifaka, which was a really cool one. I was really excited to see. Nice to see another lemur. It's something a little different. Is this one of the adults? So yeah, this is one of the adults. So I can't wait to see them hop around. So we've got the Coquerel's sifaka, or Propithecus coquereli. So these guys are a diurnal species of medium-sized lemur, type of sifaka and Propithecus. So the description there, you can see they have kind of that really interesting pelt there. They've got white and maroon patches on their chest and portions of the limbs. The coat is actually generally quite dense, and you can see they've got that bare face with a white patch of fur on the bridge of its nose. They also have naked eyes that are black with eyes of yellow and orange. The bottom of their hands and feet are black. And they also have a tooth comb, which they use for grooming and sometimes scraping fruit off the pith. So in terms of distribution, these guys live in Madagascar, like pretty much all other lemur species. They live in altitudes less than about 300 feet, or 91 meters, at a dry deciduous forest in northwestern Madagascar, including the coastal forests. They are found from the Bisibok River to the Minerva River and large areas in between. And their presence seems to be much fragmented because of the rivers and degradation. However, their exact boundaries are unclear. Groups have a home range of approximately 4 to 9 hectares, though some suggest population densities of 5 to 100 kilometers a hectare for some of these groups, and the population is estimated to be about 47,000 individuals in this national park, so they are considered sadly critically endangered. So this species is a herbivore. It varies a lot by the season. So the wet season, they'll eat immature fruits, leaves, flowers, fruits, bark, and dead wood. But in the dry season, they'll eat mature leaves and buds. They may browse on nearly about 100 or so different species of plants. But the majority of the time, they are concentrated on about 10% of these. And since they have a very fibrous diet, they have an enlarged cecum and extremely long colon, so they're hindgut fermenters that allows them to facilitate digestion. And they spend 30 to 40% of their time foraging in the day, especially in the morning, midday, and evening, with females often lead during foraging and exert their dominance by eating the preferred foods or denying the males food until they are satisfied. And the lemurs are beneficial to the environment because they help disperse seeds. So yeah, it's really cool to have a nice different type of lemur. We all kind of wanted a sifaka for quite a while. Give us something a little different. So I love how they hop like that. It's quite cool. And cockerels, they've actually been seen in shining leaf sumac and mimosa, which is quite cool. In terms of behavior, they do live in groups. They live in matriarchal societies, so the females are the bosses of about 3 to 10 individuals. They also are primarily arboreal and diurnal, and they spend the majority of the time in areas about 7 hectares or so. However, they can live in quite large ranges, about 20 hectares. The home range may overlap with other groups. They tend to avoid each other and avoid aggression, and when friendly, they will meet their nose together. And matriarchy is quite common in the animal kingdom, but in lemurs it is quite common, and a matriarchal system is actually quite pronounced in the Coquerel sifaka, as all adult and even most subadult females are dominant over males. So that means the females have the the top dogs, they get access to the best food and best mates and things like that, and they practice polyandry. So the female might choose a mate with only one male, but most often mates with several, often visiting other groups as well as her own. And males will compete for access to sexually reproductive females. However, the winner of the fight may not necessarily be selected for the one for breeding, and that makes it, much more complex. And in terms of reproduction, we'll have the cute little babies while we get a chance of that. Look at them all hopping along for food. Look how great that is. Love these little guys. So, females cockerel sifakas typically choose their mates, and they synchronize estrus in January and February, with infants being born in June, July after incubation of about 162 days. Normally one infant is born during the dry season, June, July, with newborn lemurs being about 100 grams, 3.5 ounces born, but can vary between 85 and 115 grams, or between 3 to 4 ounces. The infant will then cling to its mother's chest for a month or so, then transfers to her back. And infants are typically weaned and become fully independent about 6 months of age, and adult size is reached at between 1 to 5 years of age. And males and females are typically sexually mature about 2.5 years old, but they typically do not actually have their first offspring until they're about 6 years old. And hybrids have been known with other species of sifaka, so there's lots of different species of sifaka. So what's really interesting about sifakas is their way of communication. That's why a lot of people are really interested to see them in the game, because they are very, very funny how they walk around and things like that. So in the trees, cockerel sifakas typically use vertical climbing, and they typically maintain their upright posture when at rest, only the bark of trees, but the style of climbing is pretty characteristic of all lemurs. But this particular lemur can leap from trees up to about 35 feet or 11 meters, and they have extraordinary ability to leap to spiny trees and precisely place its hands at feet so it's not hurt itself. Occasionally, though, they will have to go to the ground and cross open spaces, and probably more now that a lot of their forest is getting cleared. So they have a locomotion that's unique to most sifakas. Which you get a species, and they kind of move with like their bipedal hops. You kind of saw them before. You saw them hopping around. They were jumping around on the ground. You see like that there. They typically hop around on the ground. We saw that before, like that. They kind of bounce sideways and kind of hop and cross the legs forward, and it's almost kind of like a kangaroo. And they use that kind of jump there to get that momentum. Can't even speak properly. In terms of communication, like other species of monkeys and lemurs, they do use a lot of visual, auditory, and olfactory cues to communicate. Which sifaka is a Malagasy name that refers to their call or the bubbles that they make. Contexts of these groups include grunts and things like that. They may exhibit a long wail. And they rely heavily on scent for communication as well, so they typically will scent mark with glands on their throat, which they rub back and forth on branches. And females are more likely to scent mark with the anogenital glands, though it's not entirely sure what information this conveys beyond the demarcation of territory. They also have some calls that can be used as anti-raptor responses, like the tishfak means kind of climb down, and they have different calls for animals on the ground and in the trees, since they're raptors. And very cool as well, cockerel sifakas have been very important to science. They've been studied to learn about the evolutionary history of primates, and studied like things like color vision, parental care, matriarchal primate societies, and cases of speciation, because there's lots of different species of lemur and how they kind of change and adapt. So in terms of their conservation status, they only live in 2 protected areas in Madagascar, and they are critically endangered, and their primary threats are things like deforestation, habitat fragmentation, and hunting pressure. And the local people often clear trees to provide new farming land, which means there's less habitat for these guys. And many traditions do actually prohibit hunting of these sifakas, though one to derives from a legend of a sifaka saving the life of a boy who had fallen out of a tree. So basically because of that, they're not actively hunted, but they are breaking down because of immigration and cultural erosion. So this lemur is now hunted for bushmeat, but humans aren't the only threat. The introduction of foreign species like cats and dogs, they will hunt sifakas. And protect animal welfare suggests, like most other places, you should neuter your dogs and cats to protect sifakas and other local wildlife. But also predation as well. Naturally, they should be being preyed by like constrictor snakes and fossors and hawks and raptors, but introduced predators such as mongooses, civets, European cats, African cats, and feral dogs have been known to prey on them as well, but the humans are the biggest one. They're now seen as a threat when hunting, so they're trying to try and kill them. So some lemurs as well are unaware of the danger humans pose to them on the ground, and to eliminate predators they do recognize, they'll announce a threat and warning call. Because they don't know humans that well, they just kind of don't notice. There's a bit of island naivete. But a lot of people, I haven't watched this as a kid, but a lot of people loved Zubumufu, which was actually a Coquerel sifaka, and his name was Siobhan, who lived at the Duke Lemur Centre, and he lived with a group of other sifakas there. And if you've seen the movie Dinosaur, there was a species of sifaka lemur that was kind of the main group that raised the Iguanodon elidar and all that. Not sure if it was the same exact species or don't even the species was really mentioned. But yeah, really, really cool to see sifakas. Nice animal to see in the game, something a little different. But yeah, really, really cool. So last, but certainly not least for this pack, I'm going to split it into two. We have got the Hamadryas Baboon. So let's have a look at these guys. So let's have a look at a nice big male there. So this is the Hamadryas Baboon. So Papio Hamadryas. These guys are a species of baboon within the Old World family, Old World monkey family, and the northernmost species of all baboons living in the Horn of Africa and the southwestern region of, or northernmost region, or southwestern region of the Arabian Peninsula. So in terms of their description, they are strikingly sexually dimorphic. So you can see the males are about nearly twice the size of the females, and they also show different coloration. With males, so you see have this quite prominent cape or mane and mantle, silvery white in colour that develops about the age of 10, while females are capless and kind of just brown all over, so you know a little bit more boring, quote unquote. Yeah, nice to see a baboon. Males typically have body measurements up to about 80 centimeters, and weighing about 20 to 30 kilograms, or 44 to 66 pounds, and 31 inches, while females about 10 to 15 kilograms, and 22 to 33 pounds, and a body in 40 to 45 inches, or about 6 to 80 pounds, with the tail adding about 40 to 60 centimeters, or about 16 to 24 inches, with a small tuft, with infants being a very dark brown when they are born, and then they lighten after about a year of age, and they reach sexual maturity about 4 years of age for females, and about 5 to 7 years for males, since the males have got to get bigger. You can see this is a little baby there. You can see a little bit lighter they are. So in terms of their behavior and distribution, I'll still talk about the distribution first. So they are found from the Red Sea in Ethiopia, Djibouti, and Somalia. They're also native to southwestern Arabia, such as Yemen and things, and they are locally extinct in Egypt. The Hamadryas baboon typically lives in arid areas, savannas, and rocky areas, recruiting cliffs and sleeping and finding water. And like all baboons, the Hamadryas baboon is omnivorous and adapted to relatively dry habitats. But during the wet season, the baboon feeds on a variety of foods such as blossoms, seeds, grasses, wild roots, barks, and leaf from acacia trees. Though they will also eat other seeds, but they'll also eat insects, spiders, worms, scorpions, reptiles, birds, and small mammals. That includes young antelope, which is quite interesting. And their drinking activities also change in the season. But during the wet season, they do not have to go far to find pools of water. But during the dry season, they frequent up to about 3 permanent waterholes. And baboons rest at these waterholes during mid-afternoon and kind of only stay a short distance between these waterholes. So in terms of their group behavior, these guys are unusual among baboon and macaque species, as their society is strictly patriarchal. So the male will limit the movements of the females, hurting them with visual threats by grabbing or biting them if they wander too far. Males will sometimes raid harems for females, and they will fight each other and try like a takeover. And they use threats, so they like flash the eyelids and things like that, and redden the teeth, as threats. And they'll often will take males as hostages during fights, which is interesting. However, males within the same clan tend to be related, and they will respect the social bonds of kin. And though, in addition, females will actually demonstrate definite preferences for certain males, and will rival males heed their preferences. The less a female favours her harem males, the more likely she'll be taken by a rival. And young males will often follow a males, may start their own harem by manoeuvring immature females into following them. And the males will also abduct a young female by force, and either way the male will mate with the female as when she matures. Aging males will often lose their females and followers and soon lose weight, and their hair colour will change brown to like a female. And while males of many other species of baboon are transferred away from the male relatives in different troops, they actually remain in their native clan or bands or have association with male kin. So it's very political, being a male Hamadryas baboon. Hamadryas baboons traditionally actually had been thought to having a female transfer society with females being moved away from relatives. However, later studies show that female baboons have close associations and listing some of their female kin. Females spend about as much of their time with other females as they do with the harem males, and some females don't need to interact with each other outside of the harems. In addition, it's not uncommon for females from the same natal group to end up in the same harem, and females can still associate and help these extended families while their other ones being controlled by harem males. And females, there's some social difference do occur between males and females. Some females are more socially active and in stronger social bonds with the harem male, or these females called central females will stay in close proximity to the harem male than the females, and females will spend more time farther from the harem males, called peripheral females. So yeah, very interesting kind of social dynamics these guys have. So let's have a look at the female. We'll not have a look at the baby when we talk about the babies. So this is reproduction and parenting. So like other baboons, they breed aseasonally. So the dominant male has a one male unit and does most of the mating. The other males might sneak in as well. Females will do most of the parenting. They nurse and groom the infants, and one female unit may groom an infant that is not hers. And like all baboons, they will intrigued by infants and give much attention to them, with dominant male baboons preventing other males from coming too close with their infants. And they also protect the young from predators, where the dominant male tolerates the young and will carry them and play with them. The new male, when a new male takes over, a female should develop sexual swellings, which is an adaptation to prevent the new male from getting offspring of the previous male. And when the males reach puberty, they show a playful interest in young infants, and they will kidnap the infants by luring them away from harems and inviting them to run on their back, which is often done by follower males. And this kidnapping can actually lead to the dehydration and starvation of infants, with harem leader would actually retrieve the infants from the kidnappers, which is mostly an act to protect their offspring. But really cool as well, they do have an interesting way of thermoregulating. So besides bipedalism is thought to help reduce these kind of stresses, they've been looking to investigate how baboons kind of deal with heat loss and stress, being bipedal is thought to help with that, how they do it as quadrupeds. But using implied data loggers and simulate nesting conditions, they actually found that the baboon's internal body temperature increases significantly with water deprivation. And when water is given to baboons, their internal temperature actually drops quickly. Therefore, it seems that access to water helps baboons maintain homeothermy, and water restrictions are a major threat for the species. However, they can maintain their plasma volume during water deprivation with an increase of body colloid osmotic pressure, which is quite cool. And they are something quite common in culture. So, Hamadryas baboons often appear in ancient Egypt art, as they were considered sacred of Thorum, who was a very powerful deity. And they actually refer to this, he was this kind of a scribe of the gods, and was often recorded results of when they weighed the heart, which is interesting. And sometimes Tortoise actually comes in the form of a baboon. So yeah, very interesting how the Egyptians saw him. And then in terms of their threats and their conservation efforts, so the Hamadryas baboon is threatened. It is considered least concern, but they are threatened by a bunch of things. So transformation of fields and pasturelands represent a main threat to these baboons, as the only natural predators are striped hyenas, spotted hyenas, and a diminishing number of African leopards that can still be found in the area, but they might switch common now, so they're doing okay. They're listed as least concern as there's no kind of wide range threat to present, so they may be at risk of the loss of habitat due to irrigation projects and loss of habitat. And they do live in a few number of sanctuaries and things like that in national parks, so they are at least safe in all areas, but they're doing okay. We're glad that they're doing okay. This is Hamadryas baboon, we kind of talked about it before. You can see their range there, so you can see that's the Horn of Africa, some places in Saudi Arabia. And you can see groups 6 to 100, so up to 30 males, up to 99 females. You see the groups there, the bachelor size is 6 to 30. Males possess harems in large groups of interrelated males and may fight for the leadership. They're polygamous, they are patriarchal, so only mature females related to alpha become outsiders. They are confident, and guests will flee from these guys because they are baboons and they will bite you, and they are pretty dangerous. Their size is about 85 centimeters long for males and about 60 for females. Life expectancy is about 27 years. 20 kilograms for male, 13 for females on average. As I mentioned, they can get quite a bit bigger than that, about 40 kilograms. Age of sexual maturity is about 6 years. Makes sense, it's the averaging out of both, because males, it takes about 6 to 7. Females about, I think, 3. So yeah, that's averaging out. Age of sexual sterility is about 21 years of age. Number of offspring, typically 1. Yep, 6 months gestation, that's about right. Into birth period, about 18 months. And they're very easy to breed in captivity. So yeah, all of these are pretty easy. So the name Hamadryas comes from the ancient Greek compound word that roots the dryad that lives inside of a tree, or a druid, something like that. So the patriarchal society of Hamadryas Baboons is unique among the baboon species. That's true. We already mentioned that. We already kind of mentioned that. And they're opportunistic carnivores who eat anything from grasses. Omnivores who eat anything from grasses, seeds, fruit, and fish. They eat fresh meat from birds, small monkeys, and young antelopes. In populated areas, they have been seen raiding waste bins for food, eating crops from farms, and preying upon poultry and small goats. So yeah, that is shows that they're very generalist and kind of doing okay, even though there's lots of changes in their habitat. They seem to be doing okay. And for some reason, they like living with the African savanna elephant. But yeah, really, really cool to see these baboons. Really, really nice. So yeah, that would be part 1 done. So that's part 1 done of the pack. So the other 4 animals we'll be covering next time. But yeah, I really, really, really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified about anything. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.